Good morning, Goat Nation. That car guy Eddie here with another video. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is actually regarding should you have a project car. So I don't know how many people out there have project cars or have dreamt about a project car, but this video is my feelings and kind of how I feel about do you need a project car, because it's a cool question, right? Now, first let me start by saying a project car is something that you don't drive daily, okay? If you say, oh, you know, I have a project car and my project car is a 2015 Civic, and you know, it's got a K20 turbo, and you know, I got this done, that to it, but I drive it every day to work. Like, that's really not a project. That's more like a daily, you know, something that you're driving every day that you're slowly fixing up, kind of like my Civic is. What I mean by project is I mean by something that you don't drive every day that may or may not work or be out of commission for weeks at a time, or maybe even possibly months at a time. Something that may or may not be registered or may not be non-opt. Those are the type of projects. Now, for those of you that know, I actually bought a 1982 Chevy C10, and I bought it for a variety of reasons. Number one, my second car I ever had was a 1980 Chevy C10 short bed pickup. It was gold. It had tuck and roll velvet interior. I bought it from this Mexican dude. It had a Chevy 350 in it, and it was cool. You know, the truck was gold. I had it in the late 90s, so the trucks haven't appreciated like they have now. A lot of people just looked at it as an old Chevy, nothing really neat, nothing collectors. You know, the square body craze wasn't what it is now. And what ended up happening to that car was I sold it, shocker, maybe because I've had 55 million cars. No, I actually sold it because I couldn't get it to pass smog here in the state of California. And somebody down the street from me, this older guy, I was 18 at the time, this older guy totally took advantage of the situation and basically said, hey kid, I'll buy that thing from you, I'll give you $500 for it. And even then, that was a ripoff for the car. You know, I totally got swindled by that dude. And you know, that's the one that got away. But I got a lot of cool memories in that truck. You know, I learned to drive in it. I learned to spin donuts in it. I learned to drift in that truck. I really learned a lot in that truck, but it was a piece of crap by the time I got rid of it. I mean, I literally drove it. I drove it pretty hard, and as any traditional kid would do, I didn't do a whole lot of maintenance to it. So I was in the market for a project car, and I was bouncing around a bunch of ideas, and I wanted something that I didn't have to smog, and everything pre-75 was very, very, very expensive. And I found this loophole where you don't have to smog a diesel car unless it's after 1997. So I was like, whoa, I should just go find something that's diesel and swap it. And what better to do that for was going to be a square body. You know, I found that if you buy a square body that has a diesel in it, the transmission is the same that mounts up to any Chevy 350. And I was like, I'll just swap a motor. How hard can that be? I'll just swap a motor. So I bought this thing, and you know, I had a little bit of a budget. That's the idea. When you get a project car, you have to have a budget, and you have to have dedicated money that you're gonna put in to that car. Okay, I'm gonna give you that advice right now, because let me tell you things add up real quick. First, you have the price of the car, boom. Then you have the price to register it and transfer it into your name. Now, here's the thing. Most project cars haven't been registered in a long time because somebody's project car was somebody before them's project car, and somebody before them's project car. So you have people who have not registered this thing. There may be back registration, there may be, who knows. Check with your local DMV, because a lot of vehicles I were finding were like, you know, oh, $2,500, but it's got $1,800 in back registration. Like, I'm not trying to spend $1,800 to get a vehicle back on the road, especially if it's a project car. You know, these are lazy people who have not paid the money for their project car, not put the money into it to put it on non-op. It costs like $15 to non-op a car, and then the registration doesn't mess up, and you're in a better situation when you buy it. So if you find a project car that's got a bunch of money in back fees, there's probably a very good chance that they didn't care about the car and that it just sat, and because they ignored everything from DMV. This lady's not even gonna look at me. She's just walking across the road. See, these are people who deserve. Oh my gosh. Like an overweight Tina Turner. Anyways, where was I? Project car. Okay, so in my case, I wanted one that was running. Okay, I don't want to have a car that just sits in front of my house for like 10 years and slowly dies, because everything on the car goes bad. And I guess if you're saving up money to do a swap or to do something like that, it makes sense. But here's the problem. I bought one that was running, everything was fine, and I had it like 2 months, and I drove it here and there. I took it to my kids' softball practice and stuff, and things just started breaking because it's old, you know, weird electrical problems. And once I got into it a little bit more, I realized that all of these other people who have had the truck before me, because it's project and it's been owned, has been hacked and slashed and, you know, not done right, stuff put back together. Like, anytime that you buy a project car that was someone's project car off Craigslist or Facebook or anything like that, it's gonna be a hack job. It is. I mean, people don't know what they're doing. It's a project. You're supposed to do it yourself, and things get swapped, and it's a headache. But the bigger deal is if you don't have the money to put into it. And here's what I mean by that. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch Hyperdrive. It's on Netflix. It's freaking awesome. It's really cool. Dedicate your time to watch it. It's great. Now, the reason I bring up Hyperdrive is because there's all these people in Hyperdrive that race their own cars that they've built. And that's the goal, right? When you get a project car, you know, you want to make it, you have this vision of it being like a race car or something like that in your head. And that's what you want to do, okay? That's where you want to go with it. The problem is that that's expensive. And I'll give you an example for this truck, right? For this truck, it was, I wanted to do an LS swap. And the LS swap alone, let's see, so the motor was like $500, but then there's all these ins and outs. So even if you find a motor, like let's say you have a Honda, right? And you want to do a GSR swap on it. Well, a complete GSR nowadays is like $2,500. So let's say you find a shell for like $1,500, and then you get the GSR, you know, body, or the GSR motor, the tranny, the ECU. You put it all together, and then you're like, yeah, I got this awesome car. Well, you spent like $4,000 on it. Can you find one that is already $4,000 that the work is already done? I guess that's the thing. When you're shopping for a project car, you have two schools of thought on it. You either want to do completely like frame down, where you get the car, you take it all apart, you do it your way. But if you try to half-ass it, you know, you're going to be one of these people that just has a project and the project keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. The best advice I can give you is if you get into a project and you don't like it, okay, get out as soon as you can, because it will cost you money. I'll give you an example. The front of this truck that I bought wasn't messed up. You know, it had ugly headlights on it, ugly grill. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to replace the headlights. So I was like $40. And then I was like, you know what, the grill's ugly, I got to replace the grill. So I ordered the grill. That was $130. And then once I put the grill in, I was like, man, it's missing the chrome surround on it. So I went and I bought the chrome surround. That was $200. But guess what? The one that I bought was for an 83, not an 82. Yay, that's awesome. So the company won't take it back. So I'm out $120 for that. It's things like that add up incredibly quickly. I bought a bumper from Summit, and I was like, Summit Racing, good to go. Bought a bumper, get the bumper doesn't fit. Call Summit back, and they're like, oh, sorry, you have a Silverado, it's this bumper instead. So I had to ship this freaking bumper back, which is like way expensive to ship a bumper. It nickel and dimes you, it really does. And I want to tell you, the juice has to be worth the squeeze for your project. Like, you have to love it. You have to be, not love, you have to be emotionally invested in it so that it makes sense for you to spend money on it. And then have a clear idea of what you want. See, I never really knew what I wanted this truck to be. I was like, you know, I thought the idea of a truck would be great because I got a bunch of motorcycles, and I was like, well, I would have the truck. But the truck's been super unreliable, you know? And do I want to dump potentially, let's say I dump $5,000 into this truck, and you know I spent 23 on it, so I'm at 7,300 bucks, and I have a truck that like can burn rubber but isn't super fast but is reliable. Like, is that worth it to me? And it's not really what I want. So needless to say, I'm gonna go ahead and dump the truck. I'm just gonna try to get out from underneath it, and I'm gonna go with something else. I really want something rear-wheel drive, you know, maybe a, I don't know, Nissan 200SX or something like that. Toyotas are super expensive. Anything rear-wheel drive from the 80s is super expensive, but maybe something rear-wheel drive. I don't know. I keep going back to this race car mentality, but even that's expensive. You know, you gotta have a trailer to tow it, and you know, you gotta have a track near you and stuff. There's all kinds of money. When you say cars as a hobby, it's expensive. So my advice, keep what you're driving now. If it's newer and it's reliable and you drive it every day, that's where you're gonna get the most bang for your buck, honestly. And remember, this channel is all about being cheap and making things work. And if you have something that you love now and you're okay with putting money into it and not really getting a big return on investment should you ever sell it, go ahead and do that. But as far as a project, give it a long, hard think of what you wanna do before you buy it. Because sometimes you could buy an emotion, and that's a bad thing. Anyways, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe down below if you like my content. Definitely drop a comment. If you have a project, drop a comment. You know, what are you working on? And I will catch you guys next video. Take it easy.